everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show for your Monday edition. Thanks for letting me have Friday off. I had a fantastic weekend. My camera might be a little bit different today, too, so my colors might be off. I had to use the camera for downstairs. I did have a great birthday, Johnny. Thank you. Thanks for all the fun that you always provide. And the SD card actually worked in the camera this time, so about 1,800 pictures. So quite a lot to go through. Anyway. Hope you guys had a great trading day out there, particularly those of you looking at crude oil, and that's where I'm going to start discussion for today. There was a question that came in regarding kind of what's going on with crude oil, right? We obviously had a huge day today for crude oil. Anybody who's trading oil, you'll probably see this at the pump here, 5.28% drop in crude oil today. There you go. And technically, what makes this so interesting for me anyway is we've had this kind of downward pressure along the tops of the crude oil chart for a long time now. It's been a couple of years. Yet we haven't really been able to make a new low. So I kind of was drawing this line along the bottoms here, showing that prices are getting better, that the demand picks up and it's not getting as low. And then today we just knifed right through that. We blasted through that. Of course, recovered off the bottoms for sure, but at this point, that line needs to go. Right? It's no longer relevant. Ultimately, what's going to happen is this little dotted red line at the very bottom here is the one that's important, and that is the low point we've seen going all the way back multiple times, but really till about May of 2023. Now, there's a couple levels just slightly below that, right around 61.75, 61.80, somewhere in that ballpark. But it all comes back to the question of the price of peace. I love my AI vision here of a, it's not quite a dove, it's got the beak's a little too long, but anyway, crude oil in the background and refineries. And the question was from Tibor, he says, can you talk about what's going on with oil? Well, obviously, I think there's a lot of international mounting pressure for some sort of settlement, some peace. Let's quit fighting over the Middle East because it's this tit-for-tat conflict that has gone on, which seems like forever. The question is that going to stop? Are we going to see actual peace agreements? And when we look at the chart here, it kind of tells me that there's some optimism for that. We had, again, a drop today of 5.24%. And if there is peace in the Middle East, then, one of the market's least favorite items is at least starting to be removed a little bit. And I think you guys all know what that least favorite item is. It's uncertainty. So if we can go into the future with the mindset of, hey, we'll have some peace over there. Yes, there'll always be some little infighting, but nothing major, no major supported conflicts. Then the oil becomes much less of an issue. So the price of oil will drop because there's less conflict, less disruption, less chance of people blowing up tankers or refineries. Then you have to look at what could happen for the equity markets. When you have global peace, which we'll never truly have global peace, I don't believe. I wish we could, but we probably won't. When you have more and more peace, then economies are more happy and free to trade, and you get just economic growth. So in theory, if we continue to get more peace talks, what you'll get is a further decline in crude oil and natural resources, period. I think if you look at things like natural gas got slaughtered today. This is a trade I'm in on Boyle, and I got smoked today on this natural gas. Why? Well, because if oil's dropping, the cost of most other energies is going to drop as well, because otherwise people are going to jump over to crude oil and then they'll neglect natural gas, so you take away your buyers, and then price will start to drop till it finds more buyers. So this is really good politically. It's almost perfect timing, and maybe there is some political manipulation here where we have peace in the Middle East. Conveniently, I think, though, most people have already voted. Of course, we've got a few more days here for you to vote if you haven't done so already, but it's definitely something that I'm sure the Biden administration is grateful for, just because going out with peace on the table and economy looking really good, stock markets at all-time highs, energy prices dropping, inflation under control, it certainly does help the current administration's chance of re-election. Now, of course, there's many other pieces here, and we're not going to go political, but that is, in a nutshell, kind of that price of peace. Now, what does it mean? Well, it means anyone who's been long oil, natural gas, and other energies probably getting hurt pretty badly, as I got smacked on my BOIL today. I had it for about a week, and it was doing fantastic, and all of a sudden gave all my gains back in one session. I'll show you BOIL. oil is a double long natural gas. So I was playing these bottoms here and was doing fine. I'm in right around 8 and change. It was on this second day here, so about 8:30 I think is my number. And today we fell 13% in one day. Ouch, brutal. There you go, Ricardo. Get out there, vote. Make sure you guys vote. And by the way, I know I don't believe at this point, but I don't care who you vote for. But even if you just think that both of them are not fit to be president, that's fine too. But there's a lot of other initiatives that are really important, not only from a federal level, but also maybe impacting your state. So make sure you get out there and vote. Don't be that one that's like, I don't like it, it's all rigged. Just vote. Please, do me a favor and vote. So for the question that came in from Tibor, what's to say here with crude oil? The real clear and obvious piece is we are in what appears to be a continually weakening phase with crude oil with regards to price, right? You look all the way back to these highs we had in early 2022 in March. We were looking at highs over $126 a barrel. And now we've been just getting lower and lower and lower, now 50% off the all-time highs. And I think many many of these other many people would look at this. Sorry, I was like reading your comments and I got sidetracked. Many other people would look at this and say, well, shoot, crude oil was at 120 plus, and here we are at 66. We're at a 50% decline on crude oil. It's time to buy. And I don't know if that's necessarily a safe statement. I think that's probably what Tibor would like to know is, hey, is this a buy point for oil? And I got to say, I don't think it is. Again, I'm one that believes that your greater probability of success in any market is if the trend is your friend, or the trend is your friend until the bend at the end. So to me, I'm looking at this run that's been going for over 2 years now, and it's just getting weaker and weaker. Now, the good news is it's stabilized. It feels like it really has had a hard time getting below the 63 mark, but that's not to mean to say that it can't. So if I'm going all probability here, the trend is looking like it's going to go lower. Now, that said, I don't believe that this is going to be as smooth all of a sudden. Hey, yeah, I saw a comment in here earlier. Where was that? Regarding 3,000 years of conflicts, let's hope for the best. Yeah, I don't think it's going to just all of a sudden miraculously end. Even if the governments say we will have a peace agreement with Israel, we'll have a peace agreement with Iran, we'll have a peace agreement with Syria, whatever, there will always be radical factions that no matter what is done or how it is done or who's involved, they will always hate that other country because that's what they've been told and born to do since they were a young child. So that's the part that's going to be hard to overcome here. And I think we'll have those radical outbursts every now and again. But if we can get government-sanctioned peace, like, okay, and the government's actually trying to encourage it, that would be great. I think everybody here would love to see that, but I'm not going to hold my breath on it. What does that mean? It means that the retaliation is probably going to come in the future, and that could cause this to spike. So I'd be very careful trading crude oil, period. The volatility is something that I think is going to be here for quite some time, as it always is, right? Crude oil is never like, wow, it's boring, it's not doing anything. It's always moving. Now, the good news for me, since I don't have an EV, is I need to fill up my truck because I'm out of gas, and gas prices have been falling rather steadily, so I'm pretty happy about that. Big Ed says you got to wait until after the election to make a big trade on oil. Yes, I'm with you. It's one of those things, when we look at what it takes to have longevity as a trader, it's about knowing when and where to get in and out, your entries and your exits. It's also about knowing what is the most dangerous thing to be in, and when is it most dangerous. Right before an election, guys, it's going to be extremely volatile. We all know that. And we said that at the beginning of the year. That was my hypothesis for the year. Now, granted, I thought we'd be up only 7%. We're doing way better than that, but a lot of volatility, and that's not going to change till after this election. Now, I reached out to Larry. He's in Irvine teaching the options class this week. We will do our show here soon on the election just to kind of see who might benefit from different administrations, at least from Larry and my perspectives, but I don't have a definitive date from Larry yet. I'll talk to him today after he's done with this class. Lisa says, I look different today. The lighting. No, I dyed my hair. It was from one of my costumes, so I actually did a double costume, and I needed a beard for one, and I had to shave for the second costume. So yeah, I have a slightly tinted hair here, and I know it looks weird. It's weird. I feel like I'm balding more when I look at it with brown hair. But yes, the observant eye, Lisa. Let's see. You're not alone, Trader Merlin. I got stopped out of a oil position one. All right. I'm still holding on to mine, Big Eb. I'm waiting for the lows to break, but I might get stopped out tomorrow. It looks pretty bad. If you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain about anything. Yep, I'm with you. I agree. And we can always complain, but I think complaining just doesn't really do anybody any good. You can bitch and moan about who's the president or who's the vice president or this initiative, that initiative. You just got to go out there and do the best that you can and push on through, whether you love it or you hate it. It's an inevitability for us as citizens of any country. You're going to have elected officials that some of you agree with, some of you don't, but don't stress yourself out and ruin your day by getting all irritated and upset because so-and-so is president and whatever. Just keep pushing through. Hey, Chad, good to see you. Is it better for the market if we drill, baby, drill and sanction Iran? No, not really. I mean, that's a I guess a subjective question there, Johnny. Do we want to drill in the United States? Sure. I mean, look, there's obviously lists of problems we can make with that industry. You've got all kinds of leakage issues and contamination issues and just quality issues. The oil is different here in the United States than it is over in the Middle East. So that's a cleaner oil that has less refinery needing to be done to it. So we have to put some extra steps in it. But we're the largest producer of oil in the world. So, we've already got that. And it's one thing that's kind of never really sat that clear to me. And maybe I can bring on oil experts. I think I actually did ask John Rowland this one, but I don't remember his answer, which was, if we produce the most oil, then why do we have to do any business with Middle East oil? Right? Why do we have to bring any of it over? Why can't we get to the point where we're completely independent and self-sufficient? Why do we extract methane and then ship it overseas internationally? Can't we just keep it all ourselves and not have to deal with anybody else? And I don't know the 100% answer to that question. But sanctioning Iran, I think you just create more hostility. If we drill, and we tap into our resources, no pun intended, here in the United States, then ultimately I think we could get the processes down where oil is relatively cheap, but I think it's cheaper to extract the Middle East stuff. 60 Minute covered Russia sidestepping oil sanctions. I didn't see the 60 Minute piece, but I did see how they've been getting around some of the sanctions on other channels. It was interesting. More oil production will lower the price of crude oil. I would totally agree with you, Big Eb, and I think everyone would, the more that we explore, the more that we drill, most likely crude oil prices will drop. Unless, all right, what are the other factors here that would impact that? Obviously, if you're getting more oil out of the ground, that's more supply. I think we'd all agree that basic supply men would say, we drill more oil, it's going to make oil cheaper. However, you have input costs. So you've got labor costs, you've got real estate costs to get the permits, the leases to get that land. You've got extraction costs, you've got materials, heavy equipment, you've got storage, you have transportation. So if we're in an inflationary environment where those input costs continually move up, then even if we get more oil out of the ground, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that price of oil will drop. It could and it should, but we have other factors there that may drive the price of oil. So while I would agree with you, Big Eb, that yeah, it's probably going to drop the price of oil, you got to calculate all those input costs. And it's like, if you know that it costs you $30 a barrel to get oil out of the ground, and you can sell it for $70, you've got a fairly decent margin there and fine. But if your costs are $60 and you can sell it for $70, maybe it's not worth it. I don't know. I'm not a business guy that's running an oil extraction company, but in theory, it should go down in price. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, that's what I remember hearing, Stephen, is that we have a different. Ours it requires much more refining to get it pure. Theirs is a sweet. I'm not an oil expert. Don't claim to. I change my oil every 5,000 miles. I know. I should do it at 3. I got to tell you, I'll be fine. Yeah. How does the U.S. not being a part of OPEC play? Well, I mean, it keeps us off the board. If you are OPEC, which is not a lot of countries, and some of them aren't really major producers, but it gives them power. Think of it like a union, right? Should they decide to do something, whether that's raise production, decrease production, they can very quickly influence the price of oil. And I would imagine that the U.S. would want to be on that board on OPEC, but we're not. And maybe we're just being forced out, kept out, whatever. But I'm sure that they would like to be on it. Other than that, I really couldn't. I don't know if I can get more detailed than that one. Well, the BRICS summit last week impacted price. So I didn't see anything significant come out of the BRICS summit, right? The BRICS summit obviously is some of the major up-and-coming countries, obviously Brazil, Russia, India, China, and Saudi Arabia. Those banding together, those major economies, of course, remember, we have some decent relationships with some of those as well. That could certainly impact the price of oil. And, I think we're pushing more and more towards alternative energy, so our reliance on international oil drops. You guys might remember a week or two ago, we did a special on kind of going nuclear, I think was the name of the show that I did. And, man, I was watching some of those stocks. Remember Oklo? This is the one that, Oklo was the one that the guy from, not Altman, I think, maybe it's Altman, the guy who is OpenAI, he's a heavy investor in this one as well as a couple other big players. I mean, this chart has just been just screaming. I mean, clearly big interest in this. And there's other ones. I think NEE was one. No, there were a few, and I've seen them really kind of get in the South Africa. Thank you, Liz. Not Saudi Arabia. Yes, South Africa. The flag is completely different looking. One is, I think, green with a sickle on it, and then the South African flag is more of a pennant with 3 sections to it. Yes, correct. I was wrong. And that's, not only was I wrong, Liz, but that's a pretty colossal mistake if you think about politically Saudi Arabia versus South Africa. I knew it was an essay, and my mind was just, maybe my mind's a little foggy from this weekend. It was a long weekend here. All right. Anyway, I definitely think that drilling would be more beneficial. And, Johnny, we'll talk about this when we look at, man, my brain is all skipping today. Oh, rough weekend. Yeah, I already lost my train of thought there. All right. No sickle, 2 swords. See, I'm all over the place. I knew what a weapon. I did a trivia round a couple months back, and it was like, name all the countries that have actual physical weapons in their flag, and there's not that many. Okay, so again, I'm not bullish on oil. I do think that this thing's going to be really volatile. I do expect there to be really big spikes over the next few weeks. Certainly, OPEC could come in at any time, and I feel they will. I feel like there's a floor put in on this. If you look at this chart here, going back, I mean, I can go all the way back into 2021, and that's the last time we were down around $63. To me, if I'm OPEC, and I'm not, but if I was OPEC, I'd say, guys, if the price of crude oil drops down below $64, we're going to cut production. We're going to force it up higher. So I'd be careful going short here. Personally, I would just leave it alone. I would definitely leave it alone. Yeah, John. Old age tickling. Yeah, it is. It's old age, plus it was just a whirlwind of a weekend. I'm still just kind of winding down from it, but it should be a good week. All right, let's see. Betty has 2 questions, and I'll run through our top 8 markets here and kind of figure out more details of what's going on in a bunch of other market segments. But I want to get to this one just before I forget. Betty says, I seem to remember from you that investment in SpaceX is just private equity at this point, correct? And then unrelated question, where can I see the number of open put and call options for a given ticker? As always, thank you for what you do. So, yeah, SpaceX at this moment is still private. I'll tell you, in my mind, I think it has the potential to be the biggest IPO in history. If timing is right, SpaceX out there rescuing NASA from the space station stuff, I mean, that's pretty impressive. And if they can get this giant rocket off to Mars in the next couple years, SpaceX valuation is going to be monstrous. I mean, just absolutely monstrous, especially if it's the one big dog in town that is an interspace company. Man, incredible. So, yeah, it's private for now. I wish I could get a hold of any of it at this moment in time and buy into SpaceX, but we'll see what happens down the road. But it's private at this moment. When we do see it do an IPO, which it probably will in some point in the future, we'll definitely do a little more deeper dive into that one. And then the second part there was the open put and call. You can get it at really any options platform. So if you have, Thinkorswim or options platform, even E-Trade and Ameritrade have them. If you don't have a platform and you kind of want to do it for free, if you go to Yahoo Finance and type in a ticker symbol. So let's go into, let's say Apple, right? Just type in Apple there. You can see over here on the left-hand side, there's a little thing that says options. You can click on options. And, they may not list it here. I might have to add it in. It's called open interest. So you look for open interest. Let me see. Oh, maybe they don't have it on here. It would be open interest. Open interest would be telling you how many contracts are written at that price, at that strike, for that type expiration. So there you go. So that's where you would get your options. Again, most platforms will give you that information. I thought I could see it here, but it doesn't look like it's going to give me open interest. Let me scroll over here. Yeah, no, I don't think it's going to give me open interest, but open interest is what you're looking for. Those SpaceX rockets landing back on their launch pads is amazing. Not only landing on their launch pads, but I don't know if you guys watched the last launch. It's incredible that they landed, and that's really where was groundbreaking, because I remember early on they were saying that you'll never do it. It's a waste of time. You're never gonna win the space race, Elon. He's like, we're gonna land these rockets and reuse them over and over and over again. I'm gonna do it. But the big rocket, it's got tongs that come and catch this thing as it's falling. It sounds like child's play. It sounds kind of silly, but it's like, man, it's amazing. I mean, the amount of money they saved. Oh, Daniel, Dodgers ain't sweeping nobody. I got to say, that was the top 5 games of all time was game 1 of this World Series. I don't know if you guys saw it. Man, extra innings, 2-2. The Yankees go up 3-2 in the top of the 10th, and then a walk-off grand slam, which was one of the most instantly recognizable grand slams I've ever seen. Man, that was incredible. Dodgers won't sweep. No way. Yankees going to take 2, and then we'll see it turn into a real series. But it's been a good one. Go Yankees. Go anybody but the Dodgers. All right, Rahman says, not far though. UAE, Egypt attending. Saudi may join BRICS. 40 nations are on the list to wait for BRICS. Yeah, and so I wrote an article, said what's going to replace the dollar, because everybody keeps talking about the U.S. dollar is losing its dominance. It's going to be a new world reserve currency. Historically, world reserve currencies last about 100 years. Okay, great. Does that mean that the dollar is done? Personally, I don't think so. There's too much weaponry. There's too much technology. I don't think we'll lose that prominence. And the question is, who else would take it over? I don't know if countries would necessarily get along with the thought that Russia and China are the ones pulling the strings on BRICS. Russia, I don't know. A lot of people are nervous about China. I do think that it's a very real possibility that they band together with many other countries, get together, and the evil empire. Well, I don't know if they're necessarily evil. They're ones that we've labeled as evil. They're probably just trying to survive. I mean, Russia, obviously, we see what the media wants us to see about Russia and what exists over there. And is that 100% true? I don't know. I'm not walking the streets of Russia, and I'll be honest, with the U.S. passport, I don't plan on going into Russia anytime soon. China, I'll go visit China. I got no problem there. But in many cases, you see a distorted perspective of the news, which is unfortunate because you hear, Trump and Elon Musk both pounding on the media for being crooked and painting bad narratives. But it happens for both sides of the aisle. Both sides, I think, depending on which news source you listen to, you're getting fed a tailored kind of curated news for you based off what your belief systems are. And different networks certainly have those bases. So not going to change anytime soon. Margaret says U.S. dollar is still safe. I agree. I think it's going to lose it's not going to be as dominant as it was, but I do think you'll see more countries accepting different currencies, but the U.S. will still be the most utilized currency in the world. We have Bill Addis in the program many times, and he says what scares him is Saudi Arabia saying, okay, yeah, we'll take yuan for our oil. We'll take real for our oil. Why does it have to be dollars? Because we've forced ourselves into that loop and made it that we're that conduit. You want to buy oil, you got to buy dollars first and then convert it. And it's kind of been this system as the world reserve currency. Honestly, there's no reason that Saudi Arabia should be forced to do that. They should say, okay, here's the price of barrel in dollars. You want to pay with yuan? Here's how many dollars that's worth of yuan. Just give us the yuan and we'll put it in a bank account. I've got a Forex broker. We'll convert it to whatever we want. That's the way it should be. Let's see. I was at the game too, and it was equally as exciting and the same outcome. Bases loaded both. Yeah, I know, that was pretty cool. I thought that the Yankees were going to hit a grand slam on that one. That was pretty cool. Yeah, Daniel says best game ever. Man, I like I say, I grew up in Northern California, so I have this ingrained hatred for the Dodgers, which is funny. You look at, and I'm totally off the rails here topic wise, but you come up with that question of nature versus nurture, right? I played baseball. I enjoyed playing baseball, and I was a fan of the Giants. But when my mom married a gentleman who was a fanatic, the kind of guy that would scream at the TV on a 3-2 pitch with the bottom of the line, just scream at the TV. Took me to Giants games countless times, and over those years, because of his actions, I developed this disdain for the Dodgers. In reality, I don't care. It's just a sport. Big deal. Have fun. Enjoy the game. But I do enjoy berating the Dodgers fans when the Dodgers invariably choke in the playoffs. Although, we'll see. They're looking really good right now. I think that these are absolutely the two best teams in baseball, and I'm happy to see it. Should be a good one. You should watch a game with Todd Davis. I might, Jimmy. I might. If I can get him out, I'll probably do that. I've got a dinner plans tonight. I got my final night of trivia tomorrow night, so I free up a little bit of my time. There you go. Big Eb says, but I think if anyone could cut $2 trillion out of the government per year, it's Elon could. 100%. Look, I'm not saying I want to see Trump as president, but I would love to see Elon Musk go in there and do what he does. I'd love to see Musk. For any party. Any politician, I would just like to see him go in there and say, you're fired, you're out, you're great, you're going to get a raise and a bigger team to make this more efficient, but let's cut it. Let's gut it and get a lot of this desk jockey stuff that's wasting our money out right away. Right away. I wanted to do a show down the road, I'm sure it'll ruffle some feathers, and talk about the prison system and the privatization of prisons. I watched a bunch of, not a bunch, but a few specials here and a lot of stuff on prisons. Man, I tell you, I just feel like we have zero interest in rehabilitating inmates. It's more these private prison companies. They're getting paid for every prisoner that's there. So if you're a landlord, you want your apartment to be occupied at all times. Doesn't care, just occupied and keep raising those rents. Well, prison's like an apartment building. You want all those rooms filled. So, man, I don't see the incentive for people to get rehabilitated and actually maybe get out of prison. Anyway, does Bitcoin trade in yuan and rupees? As you can see, I can't spell either. Good, I like that. So, good question. I haven't seen it trade in rupees and yuan, but you can get Bitcoin quoted in pretty much anything. Now, maybe those markets aren't as liquid as like USD. Normally what you need a stable coin. So let's talk about Bitcoin. I think what's going on with Bitcoin is fantastic. We had a great day today. I'm still in that camp. I made one a mistake the other day, and that was right here on like October 4th or 5th. I said we'll never see $60,000 again on Bitcoin. And we literally tiptoed down below it for like an hour and a half, and now we're starting to rock. I am in the camp. You guys know, obviously I'm biased because I do own a bunch of Bitcoin, but I think that this is the beginning of the monster move. I think it's partly inflation. I think it's partly businesses adopting Bitcoin. I think it's partly the regulatory environment that may be changing here in about a week on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and digital assets. And I could not be more excited for the prospects of crypto and digital assets going forward. So yes, this is great. Right now, what I'm quoting you here is the futures price. But if I go down here on my watch list, I can go to Bitcoin and I can quote it. You see it says BTC USD. I don't know if there is a yuan version. Yeah, I don't know. Let's do it. Let's just go BTC. Y? I don't even know what the yuan would be. BTC. It's Injectus. Oops. BTC. I'm not seeing it right now. In order for that to happen, here the big question is, yes, you can have it, but what needs to happen is a stable coin needs to be created for yuan or the rupee or whatever currency. Now, there are stable coins for the British pound, the Canadian dollar, the Australian dollar, the euro, the US dollar, the Mexican peso I've seen, but I haven't seen the Chinese one. I'm really surprised by that, and maybe it's their stance on cryptocurrencies. Why bother if your citizens aren't allowed to be trading crypto? So maybe not right now. I'll look into it and see if there is something out there, but at some point, you'll have Bitcoin created in almost every currency. But dollar will be the most active one for now. Okay, I got some big comments coming through here. MicroStrategy is absolutely rocking earnings on Wednesday night. Yeah, and I don't know if you saw, I think it was Michael Saylor talking to the CEO. Was it Google or Apple? One of the major players out there, and saying, hey, if you want to get your next $1 trillion on your books, let me come talk to you about Bitcoin. Michael Saylor is going to continue to push, and he's going to get these companies to buy Bitcoin. I've talked to you guys about some of the richest companies in the world and how much money they have. Let's see. I'll bring it up here just so you guys can see it. But I think I have it right here. Yeah, there we go. Just to bring this one up here, you've got, let's close some of this out. Berkshire Hathaway right now, $276 billion in cash. Alphabet, $100 billion. I mean, like, even if you just did 1%, that's $1 billion. It was a Microsoft. Okay, well, Microsoft's got $75 billion. That's why it was PCAR. Hey, Thomas, have fun. Good to see you. Yeah, Microsoft. I mean, look at these numbers. And again, I'm not saying that Microsoft's going to go and say, we're buying $75 billion worth of Bitcoin. There's no chance in hell of that happening. It'd be a regulatory nightmare for Microsoft. But what if they do 1%, 5%? If they did that, holy cow, Bitcoin is going to the absolute moon, and MicroStrategy will be a huge recipient of that because obviously they have such a monumental amount of Bitcoin on their pockets. Oops, one sec, trying to get my screen a little better. Let's look at MSTR. Yeah, they have earnings next week. I don't know. I'd be very careful. I mean, this thing's up over 100% since September 6th, excuse me. And their earnings is going to be on October 30th. So not next week. 2 days. Got it on a Wednesday. It'll be their earnings. Their earnings isn't really expected to make much. They don't really do much on the earnings front. They're not really an earnings company. It's really it's all about Bitcoin. You just look at that chart right there. There's MicroStrategy. And then you can see a pretty close parallel to the trajectory of Bitcoin here. So, we've mentioned this before that MicroStrategy is kind of a proxy for spot Bitcoin. It's almost like its own little ETF. You could just buy that and do all right with that one. Okay, let me go to some of the books that you guys wrote here. And my Bitcoin fear is the CME has a futures market and possibly manipulate it, but I get that it can trade in many currencies. Well, I don't know if the Bitcoin futures market necessarily manipulates the price of Bitcoin, because the futures market doesn't control Bitcoin. It just tracks the price of Bitcoin. It's not buying and selling actual Bitcoin. So you could get a separation where somebody in the futures markets just starts selling the Bitcoin futures product, right? So they're selling the Bitcoin futures product and the price of the futures market starts to decline. Great. That doesn't mean the price of Bitcoin is declining. So you could start to see these arbitrage opportunities happen, and I think there's a room for manipulation where someone rips down the price in the futures market, then you come buy in the futures market cheap, and then you go and create that arbitrage between the futures and spot market. But the futures doesn't necessarily manipulate it. It's really the underlying that does. Now, if we have more and more people trading Bitcoin, right, to spread it out, then the price will become much more stable. But again, I feel that central banks are going to start to put Bitcoin on their balance sheets. I think corporations are going to hold it as an asset, and that will cause prices to surge dramatically. I'm for cutting, but I think $2 trillion would send us the economy into recession because you wouldn't have to cut $4 trillion to get a balanced budget. Another $2 trillion past that, $6 trillion. Yeah, Stephen, I think $2 trillion might be a stretch. Bottom line is we got to go in there and really start to cut. Period. Right? $2 trillion could be a significant amount of employees lost, and obviously we don't want to cut enough where it starts to hinder the growth and stability of the economy. But there are a lot of positions that could probably go the way of the dodo right now that just don't need to be there. Just cakewalk positions that are getting paid big money and big benefits for no reason at all. All that stuff should go right away. I think what happens is you do a multi-phase approach, right? If I'm Elon Musk, I'm going to go through and I'll just look high level and say, all these got to go immediately. Done. Hit the bricks, pack your bags, you're out at the end of the day. And then you take a deeper dive. Okay, how can we make this more efficient? Which pieces need to be changed? And that's really where he's going to have a big team in place to help him do that. It's not going to be just Elon pulling the trigger. He'll have a team there, but I'm good. Let's do it. What is up? Aklo just ripping. It's again, Oliver. It's going to a conversation about alternative energy sources. That's why I want to do that nuclear power show. I thought that was an interesting one, just to look at some of those key players, and a lot of those key players have that similar trajectory. But Aklo's got the big names and the big money behind it. That's why I think it's the mover. When you got Sam Altman, OpenAI's founder, who's going to be a very wealthy man here in the near future with some IPOs. That's a lot of capital to throw at a nuclear power company, and I think that's why. Let's see, what do we got? Geo's flying high, private prisons. Yep, Trump, lock them all up. Yeah, and again, I there's big money here. I wouldn't buy these companies. I'm sure there's plenty others. I don't want to support the prison system in the sense of I'm buying a prison stock hoping to make money. If anything, I'd like these people to be rehabilitated, or some of them to be rehabilitated. I definitely have a view on capital punishment that I'm sure some people wouldn't like, so I will keep that to myself. But I certainly think that we should do more to help them reform and get out, as opposed to just keep them there so the prisons make more and more money. If this is really truly a prison one, it says a REIT. That's great. Real estate investment trust. Jimmy says we need Javier Miele. I like him. He's a radical. He's good. Let's go. Let's do it. All right, let's go to our top 7. Let me. I moved this over a little too far. Let's go by percent change since I shrunk my screen down here. I can't really see it all. All right, there we go. So I'll start at the bottom, work our way up to the top. Obviously, we started with crude oil, which was just getting slaughtered today. I don't know if this is going to have a big knee-jerk jump back up, but the pressure is definitely being pushed to the downside with these peace talks. And good, let's have some peace for a while, please. Can we all just get along and realize you're all got a limited lifespan on this planet as it is? Why rush it? That was 6.13% slide. Your 10-year. All right, this I think is getting interesting. So these yields, I'll keep this line here because that was the analyst target, 5% by the end of the year. I think that was T. Rowe Price or another firm, but you got a big jump up today. And I was reading some stuff that they are just, the concern is the amount that they are selling. They're printing more and more. I mean, the deficit is growing at the fastest pace it's ever grown, and they need to sell more bonds. So if the demand does not pick up for these bonds, these yields are going to rise, and that's what a lot of people are expecting here. And there's quite a few people that are on the camp of inflation's coming back. We could look at some commodities here in a second. Well, let's just do it. Why not? We talked about the metals. So there's the palladium chart, which has been looking really good. Platinum, okay. Silver's looking absolutely fantastic, showing, this is a sign that people, I think, are concerned about inflation. We already looked at gold, which is, here's gold. I don't know what to say. I feel like a broken record. Every time we do this show, or at least for the past 8 months, it's been, what should we do with gold? You hold it. The trend is your friend to the bend at the end. So, this is just snooze fest. It's boring, but it's awesome because I'm long gold, and I'm sure many of you are as well. So this is fantastic, but commodity prices rising like this, not a good sign. Now, of course, we do have the crude oil, which this does help by seeing crude oil prices drop, right? That's deflationary. Great. Still got a ways to go until it really becomes a big impact. But if you go some of the other commodities, we'll go to things like cocoa. So cocoa, all of a sudden, starting to sell off a bit. Great. Coffee, still on a really nice uptrend to the upside. You have lean hogs, so my bacon is still expensive, but the prices have been falling. So we're seeing some of it actually decline. Now, if you look here, this is live cattle. So, like I say, gone are the days of $4.99 a pound for New York steaks. Now it's triple digits for this stuff soon. But that's a piece that keeps on rising. You've got cotton. Was having a nice hookup in August and September, now drifting back down. So some of this actually is supporting the argument for a declining inflationary environment. OJ still trending to the upside. My article about the bottomless mimosas coming to end may still be valid. Sugar. All right, sugar had a monumental run for the month of September, although it's starting to drift down here now in October. Nice little bullish flag formation, honestly. You can look at corn. All right, so corn was really in a free fall, gapped up, and now kind of stabilized right around that 42 or 420 mark. Convenient. Soybeans, Wheat, all right, so the last month has really seen a lot of these commodity prices drop, which is overall a good thing. Now, the real estate prices, that is an interesting one. Again, that's the major component of PCE price index and CPI numbers. And, you could look at things like IYR. Real estate dragging it up still. Could it be that cash coming out of bonds ends up in equities? Absolutely, Big Eb. Absolutely. You're basically going to look for a place that you can make more yield. That's all really money is doing. Money is going to go and flow to where it's going to get them a better yield. Now, I think when you look at the bond market, obviously if you're buying a bond, you're committing your money in for a certain amount of time. So if you buy a $1,000 par face bond, you've locked in $1,000, and if it's a fixed rate, you're locking it in for 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, you name it. You pick the duration. If money is flowing out of those markets, where is it going to go? Well, it's probably going to equities, could go into crypto as well, although I think historically it's been equities. And the logic there for anybody who's not going to buy bonds now is like, well, why would I buy it today when those yields are going to be higher in another 6 months? So yes, I want to get interest payments, I want to get yield, but I'm not going to lock in. Let's go back up to that 10-year right now. I'm not going to lock in at 4.28% when I might be able to get 4.5% in a few months. If this government keeps printing more and more and more bonds, those yields are going to have to rise. So if you get that walkaway effect where the purchasers of these bonds, whether that's the 10, the 7, the 5, the 15, the 30, the 20, they walk away from those durations when the Treasury Department sells them, these yields are going to have to spike even more. So it'll come back in at a certain point, back into bonds, but this is just not a really good picture right now. Merlin, where do I park my cash? Well, it depends. I have many different sources of it. My $100 bill collection, that's safe deposit boxes. Typically, I try not to park cash. I keep an emergency fund. I always say keep a 3-month in cash. So I've got I have 2 cash emergency funds, and then the rest of it I put into trading accounts, and I don't really park cash. I am going to try to earn yield by selling options is the easiest way to do it. You can just go deep out of the money. So you look at I didn't make any trades today, unfortunately. I would have liked to. But if you look at things that I've been mentioning, like Boeing. So Boeing, I was telling you, like, I wouldn't mind the 140 puts, although I'm kind of second guessing that number now just based off the $10 per share loss. A little nervous about that one. I may go to something that's a bit more stable, like let's say SPY, and I could sell some puts at a level that maybe on a weekly basis I'm making, let's say, 0.1%. Okay, well that's 0.4% per month. So I would be beating some market returns, not a lot, but I would certainly be beating the markets if I got 0.1% per week. But if I stepped it up and got 0.25% per week, then I'm making 1% a month. Now I'm back to 12% per year. So I would be using the options market to way to generate income, depending in what rate of return I'm looking for. And my goal is to just beat the S&P 500 period. Layer cash and short-term T-bills, 13 weeks. That's one way to do it, but you're also not getting, you're not going to be getting a high rate of return. You're pretty much risk-free. What Big Eb is saying, you pretty much be risk-free, but you're not going to really be making over 5%. It'll be right around 5%, which is fine for a year if that's your number. But if I'm looking to get to 8%, that strategy is not going to work for me, right? I need to find some other way to augment that. And that's why I've always liked my 1% strategy. Sometimes they'll do better, sometimes they'll do worse. But depending on your level of risk, if you want to be fairly risk-averse with that, then you just go to a list like this of the S&P sectors and stay with diversified instruments that aren't going to hurt you too bad. If you are looking for a higher rate of return, well, now you're looking at some of the bigger names. You could go with the highly liquid stuff like Apples and Teslas and Microsofts. Your Magnificent Seven stocks are plenty of premium on a regular basis here. So that's where I wouldn't necessarily park it, but that's where I would put it to work for me, right? That's where I put it to work for me. How is it the 10-year bond is going up along with equities? I think it's multiple pieces to it. I think at this point, I think in general, people are somewhat optimistic about a leadership change. We know it's a leadership change. We know someone will be different at president. And I think that is creating some sense of economic optimism. The reason the bond yields is a totally different situation, and that's just because we're running a bigger deficit. We have to sell more and more bonds for that, which I just explained. So you have bond markets logically running up for that. I think that the equity markets are running up off of expectation of, okay, we'll get rid of this at the current administration. We have a new administration coming in, whether that's Democrat or Republican. We don't know, but we'll have finality, and then we can really plan out the future there. So for right now, they're linked. Now, that's my perspective. I may be wrong, but right now I think that that's why they're moving up. I think that we'll see things start to revert back to normal after the election, once we get definitive, clear president. And like I say, I just hope it's a decisive victory for either party. I don't want to hear this bickering about rigged elections anymore. It's just a nightmare. All right, what do I got to do? Okay, I got to run. Let me bring up your economic calendar. Today, there really was nothing on the economic calendar front, but tomorrow, we do have some good stuff coming out. There's a lot of economic data for you, so be careful. Here's what we've got. You've got consumer confidence numbers. You've got JOLTS job openings. You have early on real estate numbers. So you got HPI data, that's home prices. You have S&P Composite 20 Home Price Index as well, which shows, might be good for inflation, shows a decline over the past few months in the S&P Case-Shiller Composite 20 Home Price Index. Say that 3 times fast. And basically what that is 20 major metropolitan areas. So it looks like the prices of homes are not falling, but they're not growing as fast as they used to, which is a good little pause, a reprieve. You also have the goods trade balance for the U.S. You've got preliminary wholesale inventories. You have a lot of stuff going on. So busy day. And then if you're international, if you're trading the Swiss franc, you've got their Swiss National Bank chairman was speaking. Canada as well as their Bank of Canada's governor, Macklin, was speaking. Also Australia with CPI data coming out. So a lot of really important stuff here in Euro with their CPI data. So inflationary numbers abound internationally tomorrow. So any of those could be major market movers for you in whatever market you decide to trade. So be careful. And then the earnings start to pick up. Now, it's not as great as it will be, I think, later in the week, but we do have one of the biggest companies in the world, the second largest holder of cash in the United States, and that is Google. Alphabet reporting earnings tomorrow. That's BMO, which I'm really surprised at that. I always thought that NASDAQ's pretty much traded only after market close. You can see here, Alphabet, BMO. I almost feel like that's a misprint, but we'll see. That's before market opens, so you should have that already on your docket when the markets open up. You also have Visa, AMD, Novartis, McDonald's, or Mc bacteria-infected food. You have Pfizer and a few others. Stryker, cool cars. American Tower, you've got Anheuser-Busch, AB InBev, Modelens, right, the owner of the best-selling beer in the world. So quite a few big names reporting there tomorrow. Is the haunted house finished? She wants to know. The haunted house it's twofold. So one of them is set up for a party, which is now done and gone. And then for the trick-or-treaters, that will be on Thursday. I'll have that all up and running Wednesday. And I got to put it back together because the wind knocks down part of the tunnel, which makes it really scary. But there you go. Why not when the market is open? Always wondered. To let it digest. That's why, Margaret. Earnings typically are not during regular market hours because it could shock the system. Whereas if you're before the market open, everyone can kind of like digest it all. No one gets a competitive advantage on speed of data coming out. If it's after market close, you got all evening before it impacts the market the next day. So I think that's predominantly why it's not during regular market hours. Too much of a potential shock to the system. Yeah, I think so too, Big Eb. I don't think that Google is before market open. That's what Zacks has got posted here, and I've been using Zacks for a long time. Let me click on this and just to see, because it's always AMC after market close. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's after market close. I really don't see why this would be BMO. And just so you know, if it's a NASDAQ stock, NASDAQ is almost always after market close. And New York is typically before market open. Another weird thing. Thank you, Liz. Okay, good. So we spotted an error there. Yeah, I didn't think that was right, but so it should be AMC after market close. Good. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed. And you know what? I wonder if it says here on TradingView. Let's go to... I wonder if it says on TradingView if it says AMC or... Yeah, it doesn't say it up there. Thought maybe it's also on that, but yeah, it should be after market close. And look at the chart of this. I mean, it's still really holding this inverted head and shoulders pattern. We may get that surge tomorrow. We'll see. It'll be a fun one. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic remainder of your day. If you got anything you want me to cover this week, just email me, tradermerlin@gmail.com. For those who did send in questions, that was Betty and Tibor. Thank you for sending those in. Feel free to send them in anytime you like, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.